Well, joining us now is Max Anderson, who is Senior Communications Officer at Bright Blue. The think tank describes itself as independent and in favour of liberal conservatism. Max, great to have you with us today. The think tank seems to be very supportive of Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor. Is that the candidate that you're backing, and how do you think he did in the debates?
Well, I mean, as I said, we're an independent think tank, so we're here for the policies more than the personality. So I can't say whether or not we're backing Rishi Sunak. All I can say is that, we want creative, forward-thinking policies. If you think that's Rishi Sunak, then great, but I can't possibly say that. But those are the policies we're looking for, yeah.
Max, does it feel to you that there is something of a drift to the right? I mean, inevitably when parties discuss amongst their members, I think it's inevitable that the candidates tend to aim their speech towards the party's right, or in the Labour Party's case, the left. But it does feel that there has been a rightward drift. Is that your feeling as well?
I can see why people think that, and particularly, they're aiming for the Conservative membership, who would probably be from that side. But we've got to bear in mind there's been quite a good mix of policies being put forward from all different angles. So I wouldn't completely necessarily agree with that. And, kind of Boris Johnson kind of got put with that kind of staple as well. But we've got to remember he was very, very generous on welfare towards the end of his time, and also great on net zero. So I think it's not just as simple to say that the party is all moving right. Maybe this is just rhetoric for the moment, and maybe it becomes more centre. But I don't think it's a complete drift to the right. We are seeing a complete mix of policies being put forward.
OK, what do you make then of the limited policies that we've heard about from these 5 candidates so far? Rishi Sunak seems to be on the outside in terms of having, believing that you have to pay for tax cuts. The other 4 have pushed that quite strongly. It's not the only set of policies they put forward, but it is the most striking. What do you make of the policy mix that has been proposed so far?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think the most worrying thing is that it's kind of been broad headline tax cuts that were being promised at the moment. There are certain concerns with that. We've got to be sensible here. We can only go with tax cuts that are feasible. I mean, we're in a situation where we're going to end up, we're heading towards recession, we're high inflation, and interest rates are expected to increase. So the promises of just broad headline tax cuts is worrying, and I think what would be much stronger to do is introduce more targeted approaches, more targeted tax cuts. Because, of course, we're a conservative think tank. We would like to see tax cuts. But that being said, we don't want to see it to the extent where it really starts to hurt the economy. I think certainly there are so many more targeted approaches that can help either build growth or help those who are really struggling. So I think the candidates have to really think about what they're offering and try and go more in depth, more personal with the policies.
Do you worry that the party is too fixated on culture issues like trans rights when voters are totally fixated on the cost of living and the soaring inflation problem we have?
No, I completely agree with that statement. I think there are so many problems at the moment. We have a war in Ukraine, a cost of living crisis people are really, really struggling on at the moment. I think talking about trans rights is an important issue. But considering the way it's kind of being used to create this woke war, culture war, I'm slightly worried by. I think people just want to really listen to what is the future Prime Minister's plans for fixing the problems that we have right now and fixing some of the long-term issues that we do have. So, no, I completely agree with you.
A poll out today by YouGov has found that climate change is the lowest priority for the Tory membership. But polling amongst the general public, of course, shows a pretty broad support in terms of action on climate change. Today and tomorrow, we're expected to break new record highs in terms of temperatures here in the UK. This is a result of climate change. How do you think that candidates balance these sorts of pressures? They've got to woo the membership, who don't seem terribly interested in climate change issues, and then appeal to a wider population.
Yeah, I agree. It is a tough position that they're being put into, but I mean, I think with 100% they should be pursuing with the net zero agenda. I think there's not really many reasons not to want to back it fully. I mean, we look at it, we want a safer world, and I mean, the heats right now are going to cause a lot of a struggle on British infrastructure and workers. But not only that, we're in a great position to be leaders of climate technology and really take the world into the new age and be a leader of that. I don't see why we wouldn't want to be trying to pursue with that. But also, we've also seen where this can kind of play in leveling up the country, where we can see climate technology being brought and offering stable and well-paid jobs to areas of this country that are really, really struggling. I think I can't see any reason why we wouldn't want to continue with that. I know that it might not be the number one priority of the Conservative members, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't something that we should still 100% pursue and continue with.
Do you think the current leadership candidates show the party in a good light? Certainly a very diverse range of candidates, a very good balance, but not a huge amount of experience. Aside from Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, not much cabinet experience amongst all these people.
Well, I think that's a good thing as well. I think that shows that the party does have diversity outside of the current Boris Johnson administration. So I think that's a good thing to be able to see all different type of flavours and backgrounds for the party, the candidates who are running at the moment. So I don't think you just necessarily want to see big sectarian states going for this. So I think it's nice, and frankly, it shows some different ends of the party that people might not have seen before. So I think that's I think it's more of a positive. I think, obviously we've seen that the Sky News debate is going to likely be cancelled. And I think that is a shame, because it's great to see some of these candidates who the public haven't seen in a great deal of light, they're being able to see more of it. So I think that particularly for the Conservative Party, I think it does help to see more of the people who are behind the scenes necessarily than just on the front pages.
Great stuff. Thanks so much. That's Max Anderson, Senior Communications Officer at Bright Blue, which describes itself as an independent think tank for Liberal Conservative. Just giving his view on the way forward for the Conservative Party.
Now,